Hello, hello. My name is Caitlin Kaiser. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I've been a teacher with Outschool since August of 2019, and I wanted to talk a little bit about ongoing classes today. Let's get started. What is an ongoing class? An ongoing class is a subscription-based class. That means that students are allowed to drop in and out as their schedule allows. Because of this format, because students are kind of coming and going, it's important to make sure that the materials that you provide for an ongoing class do not build upon each other. Rather, I like to think of ongoing classes as a big group of one-time classes that all kind of relate to a similar theme. Some of my popular ongoing classes include Coloring with Composers, where we talk about a different composer and color a great picture together every week, Musical Meet and Greet for Teens, where we learn about a different musical or sometimes a different composer each week, and Dark History, where we learn about one singular event in history each and every week. Now, all teachers on Outschool are going to organize their different classes differently, but I'll tell you a little bit about how I organize my ongoing classes. All of my ongoing classes meet once a week. Now, there is an option to have classes that meet more than once a week, or kind of a camp type of class, but I don't currently teach that style of class, so I can't offer too much information to help out with those. But all of my ongoing classes meet once a week, and I have multiple sections of each one. From there, I divide my class into semesters. So I have a summer semester, a fall semester, and a spring semester. Now, I have a lot of students who join me for more than one semester. For example, right now it's July. I have a lot of students who started with me back in January, who started in the beginning of winter semester and who've decided to continue on with me for the summer. Students don't necessarily have to do this though. Again, they can kind of drop in and out as they please, but you will find that a lot of students grow to be quite attached to both you and also to each other, and they really enjoy kind of hanging out and building that sense of community in the class. My ongoing classes have no specific kind of end date or no specific number of meetings that I plan to have. Instead, I'm kind of continually developing materials. Now, all of the topics that I teach in ongoing format work that way. For example, there are limitless numbers of composers that we can talk about in Coloring with Composers. There are tons of different musicals we can discuss, and of course there are a lot of big historical events to discuss. So thus far in the last year or so of teaching ongoing classes, I've never had to repeat a section. I've never had to tell students that they shouldn't be enrolled in that class anymore. I imagine if that day ever does come, if I ever get tired of making new materials, for example, or just want to kind of start anew, I'll wait until the end of a semester, and then I'll probably just reach out to students who express interest in re-enrolling and just let them know that we're going to kind of return to some of the topics they've already covered and suggest maybe that they find a different class. One question I see a lot in the Outschool Facebook community is, what are the pros of ongoing classes? Why do people bother to make these types of classes? Now, I love ongoing classes, and I personally think that there are a lot of pros to them, both as a teacher and also as a parent. As a parent, you're not putting out a lot of money up front. So for a semester class, you have to pay for the entire semester upon enrollment. In an ongoing class, you pay each week. So it's a little less of a monetary risk if it's a new teacher or somebody that you just don't know, or if it's some kind of material that you're wondering maybe if your student will enjoy it or not. That's a huge draw towards parents, which of course is very beneficial to us as teachers. I also find in my ongoing classes that my students really build a sense of community. They really seem to love seeing each other each and every week and talking and learning about each other and all of that great stuff that we want to, cultivate in our students as teachers. And I really get that a lot in my ongoing sections in particular. Now, we do often have new students kind of dropping in and out as the weeks go on, but generally my classes really embrace those new students with open arms, and it's so great to see how they interact with new students in addition to the ones who've been around for a long time. Since we talked about the pros, of course we have to talk about the cons. One of the big cons of an ongoing class is that students are able to drop in and out of class at any time. So sometimes you might not even know who's going to be in class until you show up and then you meet all of your new students. If you're somebody who doesn't necessarily enjoy meeting new students on a regular basis, maybe you're somebody who prefers to run semester-long classes, that type of thing, ongoing might not be the format for you. Another big con is that parents typically don't leave as many reviews for ongoing classes. That's because they don't get prompted to leave reviews the same way that they would if they were taking 20 one-time classes as opposed to one ongoing class that meets over 20 meetings. Now, parents are supposed to be prompted to leave a review after the third class, and then they're supposed to be prompted to leave a review after they unenroll from the class or after that section ends. But some parents, as with any class, will leave reviews and some just won't. So I typically don't get tons and tons of reviews on my ongoing classes. classes. Another con, especially for new teachers, is that ongoing classes only count as one class in your overall class count. So for example, again, if you teach 20 one-time classes, it'll show up as 20 classes in your overall class count. If you teach 20 meetings of one ongoing class, it'll just show up as one meeting or one class in your overall class count. So if you're a new teacher and you're wanting to make sure that parents know you're working on the platform and that you're teaching, that is something to definitely consider, but I wouldn't let that stop you from creating an ongoing class. Now, I asked for some questions from teachers in the Facebook community and also some teachers on Instagram, and I got a few that seemed to really be the big questions people were asking. One of the biggest questions I received is, what do you do if a parent wants to skip a week of an ongoing class? That's a really great question because there's not a wonderful way to do this. Back in the day when my ongoing classes didn't fill up, this really wasn't an issue. I would just tell parents to unenroll and then re-enroll when they were ready. Very rarely did I experience somebody kind of losing their spot, so to speak, to another student. Nowadays, with my ongoing classes being substantially more popular than they were, 8 months ago, it's more likely that a student will lose their spot if they unsubscribe or if they withdraw from the class. Because typically, I've got parents who are keeping a close eye on that class, waiting for somebody to pull out so that they can put their learner into it. So what I typically recommend for my parents in this situation are to watch the class recordings and use those as kind of supplementary in the weeks that they're not in class. Now, I do something slightly different for parents who've been around for a while. I have some students who have been taking ongoing classes with me for 8 months, a really long time. And a lot of those students have also taken lots of other classes with me. So in that case, in families that I'm very close to or families that have really, shown up for class every week and have been very consistent in scheduling with me, I typically will refund them for the week and just tell them to enjoy that class recording on me for the week. Remember that we're ultimately running a business, and that type of customer service, showing your families that they are important to you and that you want to make sure they have the ability to come back to your class, I think that's pretty important. Another question that I received a lot was when exactly to post materials to make sure new families would be able to see it. So for anybody who's never taught an ongoing class before, families can only see materials starting in the week that they enroll. So for example, you'll have families enrolling in week 1 and then families enrolling in week 2. Families who've enrolled in week 2 cannot see any of the materials that you posted during week 1. They can only see materials posted during week 2. So what I do is I usually post my classes materials for the week on Mondays at 10 a.m. I use that auto schedule feature in the classroom. If you haven't checked that out, definitely do it. It's a lifesaver. But I post my materials then so that anybody who's enrolled for that week, anybody who enrolls after that, they're also going to be able to see those materials. Now, of course, if you have an ongoing class that's on Monday at 8 a.m., for example, you're going to have to make some decisions. One thing that you could do is you could post the materials for the following week after your week 1 class kind of wraps up to make sure that students who are carrying over have plenty of time to access the materials. But just keep in mind, if you do that, that students who are enrolled in week 1 but are unsubscribing for week 2 will also have access to those materials. I hope that made sense. The big takeaway here is post materials beginning Monday morning for your ongoing classes to make sure everybody has access to them. If for whatever reason a parent reaches out to me and they can't find a post in the classroom, I'll generally just send them that material independently in a direct message as opposed to trying to help them find it in the classroom. It can be really hard to help somebody else troubleshoot in that capacity, and it's way easier for me to just upload to Google Drive and share the link directly with them, especially if I see that they're already enrolled in the class. Another big question I received is how to deal with the emotions that come with a student unenrolling without telling you that they're unenrolling. And the best answer that I could come up with here is you just do it. The chances are that there is nothing to do with you, that they haven't unenrolled because they don't like you or because you did something wrong. Probably they've unenrolled because their schedule has changed, or maybe they want to make room for a new class. Maybe they feel like they've kind of gotten tired of your class. That can happen sometimes after, 10 or 12 weeks of a course, especially for young learners. So try not to take it personally when a student unenrolls. Typically, in my experience, if a parent has an issue, if you've done something wrong or done something that maybe has offended them or their child, they're probably going to reach out and tell you about it, or they'll leave a negative review, or they'll contact Outschool, and Outschool will reach out to tell you about it. So if you don't hear anything from a parent and they unenroll their child, it probably doesn't have anything to do with you. So just try to move on with your day and not let it kind of get you down. If a kid is really into you as a teacher, if they really enjoy your teaching style, they'll probably enroll in a different class in the future. Another question that I received is what I do for interaction between classes. So every so often I will share some extra materials with my students. Sometimes I'll share a YouTube video or maybe an article that I found that's really, really interesting. Especially with my composer class, sometimes I'll give them a little bit of a teaser for who our next composer will be. I do that because I think it gives my students something extra to look forward to during the week, but it's not required to share those materials in your class. How you run your classroom is really up to you, especially on Outschool. So keep that in mind. You don't have to post tons of extra stuff. I do tend to post a few extra things kind of here and there, but not in any kind of scheduled form. I don't always post an extra video on Thursdays or something like that. I do also sometimes like to include things like videos of what I've done over the weekend, and I share those into the classroom and ask my students to tell me what they've done over the weekend. Sometimes they like to share, sometimes nobody says anything at all, but it's just providing that opportunity for a little more interaction beyond class. The last thing that I want to talk about is how payment works for ongoing classes. Payment for ongoing classes is way different than payment for other classes. In a one-time class, you get paid 7 to 10 days after class meets. In a multi-day class, you get paid 7 to 10 days after that first meeting, and you get paid for the duration of the class. And flexible schedule classes work the same way. You get paid 7 to 10 days after your flex class starts. Ongoing classes are a little different. So ongoing classes are always paid out on Sundays, and you typically get paid 10 to 13 days after your first class. So if my first class starts on a Wednesday, for example, I'm going to get paid 10 to 13 days on a Sunday, whatever that Sunday falls into, following that class. After that, you get paid at a 2-week delay. So for example, if I teach a class on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of June, I'll get paid for it the third Sunday of June. Now it sounds a little bit funny, right? It sounds like something that you might not enjoy, but it's actually kind of fun to get paid that way. After you get used to it and after you get up and running, it feels a little bit more normal because you're going to be getting paid every single Sunday for your ongoing sections. And it's a little exciting because if you're anything like me, I don't teach classes on Sunday. So I always get paid for my ongoings on Sunday. And it's like a nice way to wrap up my week. I wait until my ongoing classes get deposited into my PayPal account on Sunday afternoon. And then I just deposit my entire weekly paycheck and kind of pay myself after that on Sunday evening. So it's kind of a fun thing, but it can be a little confusing. If you're ever wondering where your ongoing payment is and it's kind of past that 10 to 13 days situation, I would go ahead and reach out to Outschool support and they'll let you know when exactly you're going to get paid for that. I hope that this video was helpful. I'm glad that we got to hang out, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.